The doctors believed that I was born with the cancer, but it took a few years for my parents to realise that I was growing at a different rate to my twin sister. It took me a while to learn to walk, and I was waking up throughout the night in a fair bit of pain. And then the cancer presented as a lump behind my right knee, and they still didn't really think that it could have been cancer, and went to the hospital and they took a biopsy and came back and told my parents the news that, you know, their 2-year-old daughter had cancer. I spent the next year doing chemotherapy. It was unsuccessful. I was getting too sick from the chemo. It was killing all of my white blood cells and the cancer wasn't reducing. And so after a year of just trying as hard as we could to fight the cancer, it wasn't getting any better. And so they had to make the decision to amputate my leg. And to me personally, I think it's been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Swimming is a really wonderful sport. Well, it's not really a sport when you're doing rehab, but it's a wonderful exercise that you can do to learn how to use your body again, how to coordinate everything again without the impact and stress on your body, that extra impact that you don't really need when you're recovering. My first ever Australian swim team was when I was 14. You know, I'd looked up to Paralympians for quite a long time and I really wanted to be one. And so in 2006, I trialled for the Australian swim team to go to a World Championships in South Africa. And I didn't really think that I was going to make the team, but I gave it the best shot that I could. And up until that point, I'd been swimming just at a local swimming club. And all of a sudden, I was around a team of 25 to 30 athletes. The average age was probably about 25 years old, and I was this little 14-year-old kid who was probably, in hindsight, annoying everybody. But it was, my first experience at being at a huge swimming competition with competitors from all around the world, and, you know, being able to practice just the basics of warming up, competing and swimming down again. We usually train 9 times a week in the pool, and those sessions go for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And then we do 3 weight sessions a week as well. That's a lot of just extra fitness touch-ups, because apparently 9 sessions in the pool isn't enough. And so we do a lot of bike sessions, Pilates, yoga, and then in between all of that, we have to fit in our physio, massage, you know, our dietitian and university all work as well. So it's a pretty busy life, but I've really enjoyed being very busy over my life, because I don't know, when you've got less time, I feel like your time management you have to rely on your time management a lot more. When we were in Tokyo, it was announced that we were going to have pay parity between the Olympic and Paralympic team. I didn't really think much of it. I was doing a paint by numbers at the time, so I was pretty distracted. And then the moment just kind of sunk in that this is what, you know, my dad had been fighting for when I was a young athlete. This is what I'd been fighting for, you know, equal recognition since I was an older athlete. And I was like, wow, this is a really historic day for para-athletes. And then I just got very emotional. I was by myself in my room. I couldn't stop crying. And I thought about all of the Paralympians that have come before us that have always been treated differently and had never been equally recognised by our government in any way, you know, and we're in 2021 and that shouldn't be happening. And so to receive the news that we were going to be getting pay parity, it wasn't about the money for me, it was about the recognition and that we were equally recognised finally. I think that the moment that probably stood out to me most at the Paralympics, being pretty selfish, was one of my own events. It was the 100-metre backstroke at the Rio Paralympics, because it was day 9 of our competition. I was exhausted and I was overcome with a debilitating sense of self-doubt that I've never experienced before. And so for me to be able to overcome that somehow and step out onto pool deck and still win the race, I'm still unsure and quite blown away as to how I did that. And the experience of going through that much emotional turmoil in the previous 2 hours, that medal ceremony was really wonderful. That medal ceremony meant the most to me. It's the only time I've ever cried on a medal podium. The wellbeing space, I think, has really come to light in the last 3 or 4 years. I think that there's been a real need for it amongst athletes, because a lot of athletes do struggle mentally but haven't necessarily had an avenue to speak out about it, because if you were seen as struggling in any way, that was seen as a weakness. Whereas now it's wonderful, you know, we have the AIS Mental Health Referral Network, And so every athlete that is a funded athlete by Australia is able to access that mental health referral network and really take care of our mental health more than anything. Like, it's changed so much, and it's such an open conversation to have these days. And then once you start speaking about it to other athletes, you realise that almost every single athlete is going through like really difficult periods of stress in their competition, as well as trying to balance their personal life as well. I'm involved in a global campaign that was launched by the International Paralympic Committee. It's called We the 15, and it's one of the biggest campaigns that the entire world has ever done for human rights for people with disabilities. And the aim of the campaign is mostly just to raise awareness, what people are doing in their own lives and in their own space. The We the 15 title represents the 15% of people with disabilities across the globe. In Australia, we actually have 20% of our population living with a disability, so a bit higher in Australia, but I've seen it's been received so well across the world. You never bring me down. And one thing that I've really noticed that I find fascinating is that a person with a disability is usually able to achieve much more than you can ever think that they can. And so, yeah, I've seen that time and time again in the Paralympic space. I've seen that time and time again in our everyday community space. You know, a person with a disability can always achieve more than you think they can.